Season 4 is finally here, meaning we are back to square one with a new patch, new rank, and a new chance to rise in ranks. As an Eternity player myself, I have predictions for my 10 characters, 3 Vanguards, 4 Duelists, and 3 Strategists that you should be using to win free games. Let's get to it. Before we get into the main heroes, let's talk about the heroes that are probably going to be getting banned for most of you that you definitely want to consider learning. Those being Human Torch, Emma for sure, Wolverine, and then possibly Hulk or Black Panther for lower elo players. Starting off with Torch, he was not touched in the recent patch at all. And I know he was nerfed during Season 3.5 slightly, but trust me, it is not nearly enough for how much damage he can output with little to no commitment whatsoever. Needless to say, his melee tech that makes it harder for him to hit is still in the game, making him a very solid character to learn, but also a very solid ban as a result. I don't see this guy getting banned a whole lot below Celestial and Eternity, but you know, he is just that strong and is definitely worth your time. If banning Johnny isn't your style though, banning Invisible Woman could replace his ban, as it takes the team up out of the equation that really enables him. She also got quite a lot of interesting buffs going into this new season, making her slightly more viable on her own, even without the Johnny. In my personal opinion, I do still think that Torch is the better ban here, unless you're planning on playing Wolverine, so that you don't have to deal with Invisible Woman pulling you off of all of the tank targets that you're pulling in. In that situation, I could see something a little bit different going on there. So moving on to the second ban, while Emma did catch some nerfs, guys, she is still absolutely insane and shuts down so many tanks in this cast, and the tank meta isn't really going to change all that much as a result, at least from what I can see. Her diamond form being on a longer cooldown is really just not that big of an issue, considering it is really used as a finishing tool to end the fight after targets are low from her beam. And while the beam does also take longer to charge off of shields, in the Emma and Magneto matchup that has been pretty strong for a while and is going to remain strong, you don't really charge your beam off of shields because you can't. It's an energy barrier. The only difference this makes is when you're playing against Doctor Strange, which was already a favorable matchup for Emma anyways. Emma is still going to be a menace with insane output. It's just going to take maybe a little bit longer before you can just run all over the enemy team. So still just continue to ban her or play her. It's kind of insane that she's been this good for this long and they're just kind of okay with it. This brings us to Wolverine, which I think is a character that still needs to get banned. At the end of the day, it really comes down to how strong Angela turns out being and if she can dodge the Wolverine altogether, but a good Wolverine player can absolutely change the course of an entire game. In terms of the importance of banning, Wolverine honestly is a little bit lower compared to the others we just talked about. This is because I feel like so many players don't actually know how to play him since he has been constantly banned since really the beginning of the game's release. So in this video, I do still think you should ban him, but I would also strongly consider actually learning him compared to the other characters that get banned a lot because, you know, he's not getting banned all that often. We don't have a guide on the channel for him quite yet, but he is definitely someone I'm looking to do very shortly. Closing out the list for extra ban ideas, we do have Hulk or Black Panther. I personally believe Hulk is the better ban here. However, in lower elos, I can see Black Panther being picked far more often since he is a bit easier to pull off than the Hulk. Panther players, I'm not saying your character is easy, I'm just saying that Hulk is probably the hardest character in the game, and Black Panther, oddly enough, is a little bit more approachable. On top of this, when Hulk is paired with Black Panther, he effectively buffs him with an extra 100 HP to offset the 30 he lost in the last patch. Not to mention, the bubble is also going to be blocking crowd controlling abilities to catch him after he goes in for a dive, like with freezes and pulls and hooks. All of this stuff here gets completely negated by a bubble. So what I'm telling you guys is Black Panther didn't really get nerfed. If you thought Black Panther was scary before, he is actually more scary as he got a larger health buff and utility buff with the Hulk. And if you have watched my streams, you're gonna know how crazy it is for me to be glazing Panther in this way. This character actually might be viable in the top levels of play now. With the banned characters out of the way, let's move on to the Vanguard picks that shouldn't get banned that we definitely need to look into playing in ranked coming into Season 4. Those picks being Magneto, Groot, and Doctor Strange. I hate that we still have to talk about this character, but he still is left in an an untouchable spot for the most part of the entire game's life cycle. He is great at pretty much any composition against any composition and is the Swiss Army knife character in Rivals. He can bubble divers like Johnny or Black Panther that want to get in. He can walk forward if your tanks want to get aggressive. And he also just doesn't mind just shooting down from main either. I've said the same thing almost every single video of this type for this character. For some reason, they just haven't added a character that can do what he does. Best of all, he has a great team up with Emma that we've mentioned already, and has an ultimate capable of winning games through destroying support ultimates, which is one of the most powerful things you can do for solo queue carrying in Rivals. He was in the last video of this kind, like I said before, and he's gonna stay there until someone else can do what he does, or if he starts finally getting banned and ranked. The worst part is that he's just really boring to some people. That's honestly his worst quality. I'm curious to see though how Angela functions against him, because if she can just kind of toss him around and, you know, push him back, doing all these crazy things, maybe he doesn't do as well. But guys, at the same time, he can also just bubble himself and completely ignore her entire push, and then she's just too far in and dies. So keep that all in mind. I don't think Mag's really going anywhere, guys. Moving on to our second Vanguard, we have Groot, who is also still insanely strong and ranked and did not get changed one bit. He is also really strong when both Wolverine and Torch are getting banned, which should happen a lot in this season. However, if these characters are on the board, a character like Captain America is a better option even after his nerfs, who is going to be the honorable mention for the Vanguard section of this video. Other counters like Squirrel Girl also got nerfed for some reason, making Groot even stronger too. Overall, I do think that Dive will beat Groot, with Venom and Mag being notable options, but I'm starting to realize that the top 0.5% of the player base is running that, while 99% of the player base is playing a very different game. In the ranked experience, Groot has it all: good damage, great setup, and functions in a simple way that the team can understand, putting him very high up on the list. And it is for that same reason that Strange is so high up on the tank list now going into Season 4. Is he super great into those Venom Captain America compositions? No, not really at all. But with his new buffs, he now can actively be a more lethal threat even more often. Seriously, the amount of times during the Bronze to GM that I had to wait 2 seconds just to make sure I didn't get too much darkness too early really actually did slow down my game a lot on Strange. With a 6-second cooldown now instead of an 8-second cooldown between blasts, Strange is going to be outputting a lot more DPS than he already does. The only concern is that both Emma and Wolverine need to be banned, or else you are going to have a really difficult time on the character. And in those situations, you're probably going to be playing Strange into a Groot, which can be exceedingly difficult on certain maps. Overall, though, he is an excellent pickup if you need to flex, or if you want a little bit more solo carry potential on Vanguard outside of Magneto. Now, moving things on to the Duelists, we start things off with Phoenix. She has been a menace all throughout Seasons 3 and 3.5 and has received no nerfs, which is quite appalling. But I believe it is just because the majority of players still haven't learned her yet. She is an absolute beast with the amount of damage she puts out at mid to close range. She also has a stun, great mobility, and an ultimate capable of one-shotting through support ultimates with 2 marks and a damage boost. If you can manage to find a Luna Snow duo, which really shouldn't be that hard, you can climb entire ranks in like 6 hours. And that is not just me saying it for content, it's true. The character combo there is just that strong. But if you can't find that duo though, or you're just not getting the supports that you need, Hela is a much more consistent option in my opinion. She does better at long range and has more consistent stopping power as a result. Phoenix will still be able to take you out on Hela easily from close to mid range, and closing the distance as Phoenix really isn't that hard. The real key I want to highlight here for Hela is that one of her best counters, Psylocke, just received a massive nerf again, making her even less lethal against you. There is a possibility that the meta DPS after the suggested bans becomes both Phoenix and Hela together, which was already pretty lethal last season. We're just gonna have to wait and see though. I do think Phoenix is the better option in most elos the higher you go, but for all elos, Hela definitely is a consistent, solid option that's worth just picking up if you just want to turn your brain off and shoot the enemy team. After Hela and Phoenix, we do have Namor, who is insane on the off angle if he is paired with Hulk. While I do think Hulk is a good ban, I can see Panther being banned more often than not in most ranks. So when the combo of the Hulk and Namor is not banned, if you have a duo or just someone is playing Hulk and ranked just stand alone, it is so strong that we just have to talk about it in a list that is going to be going over season 4. Namor is not just a character that can deal with dive. He is a character that can off-angle himself. And with 3 turrets available with that Gamma team up, I'm telling you guys, this guy feels insanely hard to deal with. Namor on the flank is one of the only things that you can't really deal with alone as a support, even with Luna with a snowball, because I'm fighting 3 targets instead of just 1. So seriously guys, we need to stop sleeping on the Namor Hulk team up if it is available. It is menacing when it is used correctly, and it's really not that hard to pull off. The last DPS we will talk about today though might come as a surprise to some of you, but we have Bucky, the Winter Soldier. His recent buff to his dash allows him to ground enemies for 1 second after the full combo, which might not sound crazy to you, but guys, this makes him incredibly consistent at dealing with divers. More so than he already was great at dealing with divers. Imagine you were playing Panther and you get hit by a Bucky dash. Before, you were chilling because you still had a way out with one of your movement abilities, but now you are immobile and are completely SOL. The only counter to this on the Panther is if you have the Hulk team up, but that should, in theory, be getting banned. The crazy part is that it isn't even insane just in this matchup alone though. The new ability Bucky gets with his dash is going to make a ton of characters feel a whole lot worse, and is definitely going to turn Bucky into an elite character. The honorable mention for the Duelists goes to Blade with his new buffs from Season 3.5 and Season 4 respectively, making his sword deal a lot more damage while also making him tankier and making him slightly easier to play game to game. I also think that the synergy that he's going to be having with Bucky to deal with dives is next level and could see some solid use in ranked. Now, I don't think that Blade is going to be overtaking Phoenix or any of these other characters like Hela off the throne. This finally brings us to the Strategists, and guys, I know that you really don't want to hear it, but Luna is still just the best healer in the game. While her ultimate is now only 10 seconds long, it is still longer than all of the others, with Cloak and Dagger technically being an exception, albeit much less consistent. The ultimate nerf was more of a nerf to Loki than it was to Luna, since now he can't abuse the 24 seconds of immortality. It's now only going to be 20 seconds compared to 16 if these two together are not on the enemy team, which is much more manageable. But what makes Luna still insane? It's gonna have to be the incredible healing that she can do just standalone to her team, as well as any roaming target. Since she can just put the snowflake on them, she has insane levels of DPS that can just pop off. You can just carry the game just on support alone with the damage that you have with Luna Snow if you can aim. She also has insane self-peel with the snowball and clap respectively. And when you say all of these things, it's like, dude, does Luna have anything, like any weakness at all? Does she just have everything in her kit? And yeah, she has it all. She has it all and is still kind of worth a ban, but I know the player base is just not going to do that. I do think that she's a little harder to play than other supports, but the payoff is still well worth learning, and it's just not going to be going anywhere anytime soon because I really have a hard time seeing them putting the Luna Snow ultimate as 8 seconds long. It's just not going to be happening. I'd be surprised. Now that Loki has taken some significant hits though, Cloak and Dagger comes in second place in my opinion for supports now that he is gone. She charges her ult incredibly fast, and it's very noticeable compared to the Luna Snow. The 28% damage boost on her flashbang is also absolutely insane too. So then you can just look to combo with big engages, like maybe your Bucky gets a big hook dash combo, maybe your Phoenix is looking to start stacking charges, or maybe he's looking to ult here. You kind of get the idea. You want to make sure you're cognizant of what your teammates are doing. You just have to make sure that you don't stack your ultimate dashes, you find yourself in the enemy backline, and then you hit that flashbang at the end of the ultimate. Since we've already talked about Invisible Woman as well in the ban part of this video, we're going to skip to our honorable mention since Sue is taking that third spot. And oddly enough, the honorable mention for supports today, guys, it's going to be Jeff the Shark. Now, before y'all lose your ever-loving minds here, this is barring one thing, that we are playing Jeff into triple support compositions. The speed boost bubbles that Jeff provides make him a very valuable asset, especially when you're pairing him with brawly characters like Bucky, The Thing, Wolverine, you get the idea here. Like, imagine a speed boosted Wolverine lurking in the enemy backline. That sounds like a tank's absolute worst nightmare. His new ultimate buff is also very interesting though, since the ultimate itself is typically used to eat enemies after they use one of their support ultimate. The healing he gets from the pool after he eats the team is not only going to keep him alive, but it's also going to allow his team to push in with extra health to turn the fight that much more consistently. The radius is pretty small, I can't lie, it's only 8 meters, but guys, this could be genuinely game breaking if you can manage to find a triple support composition. My prediction is that Jeff is becoming a pretty decent character. Not only in pro play, he's already been really solid there, but also in ranked as well. The only limitation is how good your Jeff player is going to be. And we all know how that usually goes, guys. Jeff players, I mean, sorry, y'all aren't always the best. But anyways, that's going to close out today's video on all of the characters that you will want to be using to climb fast in Marvel Rivals. If you enjoy this kind of content, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys all so much for watching, but until next time, I've got to peace out and pass out. I'll see you in the next one.